Friends, it is another day. It is another card video. How are we doing? I hope everybody is doing amazingly well. Today, it is a joint video with Rob, sports card therapist, and we are talking about our 5-year card plan. Of course, it can be ever changing, but always a good time hanging out with Rob. Oh, and also we are going to have a weekly show. It looks like still trying to iron out some of the details. Jeremy Lee and I are going to start a show on the 25th. I believe it's going to be a live on Tuesday evenings. We're still ironing that out with DPZ. Stay tuned for the details. Before we get started, big thanks to today's video sponsor, COMC.com, your home for buying, selling, and flipping all the hottest trading cards. Their consignment marketplace home to over 30 million cards, from baseball superstars like Aaron Judge to Marvel favorites like Spider-Man. COMC has something for every type of collector. Make sure to visit COMC.com today to build out your collection with your favorite cards. Guys, I will have a link down below in the video description as well as in the comments section for you to peruse. All right, Frank, go ahead and roll it. That was your cue. When I end it there, I need this to get better.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is the new series. I don't know if you'd consider it new now, but this is the series Dinged Corners with Sports Card Dad and Sports Card Therapist, reminding you that there's no perfect way to collect. He's Dustin. I'm Rob. Dustin, episode 4. Initially, we were calling it a 3-part series, but I think we just, we just said, what the heck? Let's just go with it, man. Let's do another one. So episode 4, baby. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Actually, Rob and I were talking offline. I've had internet issues going back a little bit now. I don't know why. I have fiber internet, but he's talked me into getting an Ethernet cable. So I'm going to have to buy like a 100-foot Ethernet cable so that I can do these without just wondering if I'm going to flicker off and on or whatever. So thanks, Rob. Yeah, we'll get that taken care of.
Listen, I can help you spend money in any way you want, right? Trying to save money and not buying cards? How about Ethernet cables?
Yeah.
But I tell you what, man, before we came on, Dustin and I, we probably had about an hour-long conversation, just kind of catching up, man, and continuing. Feels like to probably like build the foundation of whatever it is we're doing here, whether if it's for the friendship, the show Dinged Corners, all of the above. But yeah, man, it's really good talking to you for the first hour before this, for sure.
I know, it's kind of wild how that happens. We end up, you have the episode in mind, but then it's like you need to block off like a 3-hour, span so that we can catch up and everything. No, it's been cool. It's been good to get to know you better.
Yeah, likewise, man. Likewise. So today's episode, we're calling the 5-year card plan. And, I know I've mentioned this before, right? I have a friend, Craig, who's at New York City Sports Cards on Instagram. Yep. And he talks about how when he buys cards, he is always trying to envision what he wants his PC to look like 5 to 10 years from now. And that's how he dictates what it is he's buying. So, and I'm of similar interest too, that I'm always thinking like long term. Like, I don't want to watch the playoffs and see that Giannis, hit the game-winning shot, fadeaway jump shot or something, and all of a sudden now I'm going out and buying a Giannis card, and once the season's over, I'm like, I don't even want this card anymore. So it kind of helps me with that. But as far as like spending and buying and what your PC looks like, how do you operate?
Well, yeah, and I think this is a good topic when you brought it up. One thing that I need to do a better job of is really mapping out, and not just kind of flying by the seat of my pants, but really mapping out kind of season by season. Okay, what are my flip cards going to look like? Or my, if I start selling at shows, what's my show inventory going to be in order to, with the goal of funding these PC items or kind of building off that. Obviously with flip cards, you're speculating, you win some, you lose some, but I think it's important probably to map that out. And that's something that I'm trying to do a better job of. Because funding the PC is always kind of that you run into, and I've heard you talk about this too. It's like, all right, I'm down to just PC cards. Like, what am I taking to the card show? If you're going to go and set up at a card show. And so that's something that I'd like to get better at over the next 5 years. I think too, and I was about to make a video on this because you always hear, hobby folks talking about like, be focused, find focus because there's a zillion different cards. And I've said this myself on my channel, there's so many options out there, find focus. But the problem is that I found is the stuff that I was piecing, collecting 2 years ago, 5 years ago, it's not all the same today as it was back then. It's kind of evolved over time. I haven't been in this long enough, I feel like, to really lock in all of my PC stuff. I've got things in mind, of course. I've got an 86 Fleer sticker Jordan rookie card. That's a true PC card. That's one that I've been wanting forever. I finally got it at last year's National. That's an example of one, but do I have all of those figured out yet as far as my long-term holds? I don't think that I do, but I made a note here of kind of some of the cards I'd like to pick up over the next 5 years. Is that where you wanted this question to go to? Because I kind of just went off the rails a little bit.
Sure. Absolutely, man.
Okay. One thing is, over the last few years, as we've seen, there's been speculation money that's come into the market. And so there's cards that are fairly common cards that have risen in value quite a bit, but they've come back down. And so, like, as an example, 86 Fleer Michael Jordan rookie card. I want to own one of those cards, probably a mid-grade version of it, a 4 or 5. Not a rare.
Have you never owned a Jordan rookie before?
Never owned a true rookie. No, I've got the sticker, but I've never owned a true rookie for him. And that's just kind of just a long-term hold I want to have.
I mean, listen, if I'm going to really get picky here, I would have to say a true rookie.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
84 star. But that listen, I'm sorry. I had to jump in.
That's fair enough. I've got a buddy. My buddy Dave is the guy that sold Jeff Wilson the PSA 8 when they first started. Yeah, Dave sold him that card for $100,000. So Dave came to me about a year ago and was like, "Hey, man, have you looked at Jordan Star rookies?" And I was like, "Yeah, but they're not, like at first I hadn't looked back into it. So I'm like, are they licensed? They are licensed, but I hadn't really dug deep into it." And he's like, "I'm just going to go full bore and buy as many of these as I can find." And
Get out of here.
He has like 40 of them. So, and he's been buying and selling, he's been selling some along the way to kind of help fund all of it, but he's gone ham on the star card. So, but I respect it. And I think there's just a lot of cool kind of, Jordan's got like 84. He's got some kind of oddball 85 cards. I'm trying to think of that one that's like, it's almost like a hologram, but it's not a hologram.
You're talking about the jewel prism.
Yes.
Prism with an S.
Yes. Yeah. So, I mean, there's some really oddball type cards,
and then there's the Interlake.
The Interlake.
Yeah, which is an oversized card. It's white. It's oversized and
and the Nike promo. So there's a lot of options. The Nike promo would be a cool card.
As far as that star card, the one that Jeff Wilson bought. Man, talk about. I don't know. I'm assuming. It probably made for really good content for Jeff, but man, because I know even before going to National, I went to Atlantic City, and I think Jeff might have bought it like on a Wednesday or Thursday, because I know I didn't go to National until Saturday. And by then I had already known, word had spread like, oh my God, you hear a PSA 8 sold for $100K or something like that. And I'm in a Facebook group that is all about star cards. I've been in it for a few years now, so I've kind of I was in it before the star rush, and I saw the star rush, and then I saw it come down. So everyone was kind of talking about like, hey, are you cracking out? Are you going to crack out of the Beckett because now PSA is grading? But yeah, I think it's safe to say Jeff absolutely overpaid for that. That was like, I think, kind of wanting to be first to market and have that first big grade of a PSA, which is, I could get that. I get that. Don't get me wrong. But I know for me, and like I said, I'm sure part of it was for content for him, right? And it's like part of the brand.
I think too, I do think that's a true long-term hold for him. So it's like he might have overpaid in the moment, but if he's holding that for 20 years, did he overpay? I don't think so. I mean, I think it'll eventually be eventually, as time goes on.
I did the same thing with my LeBron. It's like I bought it and I probably overpaid in the moment, but the reason why I did that was because long term, I just really believe in this card. So it's like I don't even care if the value takes a dip. Like his star card definitely took a dip after National because it was like the hype wore off, and now all of a sudden, I'm quite certain that card value probably got cut in half. But you know what? This LeBron card, the value got cut in half too. So it's like, I'm not, trying to take, any shots at Jeff by any means, but yeah, it's not. I try to stay disciplined and not just like jump out the window and with my FOMO, because I know anytime there's a new product, anytime there's a hot player, anytime there's, it's like you got to let the dust settle first because prices will come back down to earth. It's very rare that something is going to be just like so short printed or so unavailable that it really makes sense to overpay. That's the way I feel.
Yeah. It's tricky with the star because and just from being in that group that they're limited in nature. I know there's a lot of reprints.
There's enough of them around. There's
enough of them. Yeah. But then you've got I think the danger in it is kind of like what you were talking about with now you've got, the first few that are PSA graded. You probably don't want to be in on those just because there's going to be more of them graded, obviously, like moving forward. So it's not like it's going to be like pop 1 or 2. It's probably going to keep on growing.
Oh, yeah.
Now, maybe there's not 1,000 of them, but, the price difference is huge when you've got a couple of them graded compared to 100 of them graded.
Yeah. And before PSA started grading them, please don't quote me on this, but before PSA started grading them, I think the unofficial count total for how many of these star Jordans exist were somewhere between like 1,500 and 3,000. I think it was somewhere in that range anyway. So it's like, it's just like with like a 52 Willie Mays or a 52 Jackie Robinson. It's like, pop counts on those, I think for PSA around like 2,000 to 3,000 of them. It's like, in a way they're kind of rare, but they're not necessarily scarce because we could go on eBay right now and find one. We could go on eBay right now, and if we had the cash, we could buy a Star Jordan card. So I think that's what makes it not scarce, is that there's always going to be one available.
Yeah, you're not waiting for it to pop up. Yeah, no, that's true.
So along those lines, your plan, you're saying you want an 86 Fleer Jordan. You already know that.
So along those lines, I think I guess some of my targets over the next 5 years are not really rare cards, but just ones that I want to add to the PC. 89 Score football is my all-time favorite set, just from when I was a kid. So like I've got 9s of all these cards. I would like to get into 10s. Barry Sanders, Troy Aikman, Deion Sanders, Michael Irvin. Those are kind of the 4. Deion Sanders, like portrait with like the hairstyle and everything. It's like the perfect card, so, but not mega expensive cards, but just ones that I want to add in, that are just classic for me.
Well, and I know in previous episodes, you talked about how you are taking, because, I talked about how I love the rookie, the vintage on-card autos, and you had talked about Greg Maddux, and you had said, well, listen, even though this might not necessarily be a super rare card, I'm trying to find my lane to make it a super rare, like a 10 on 10, PSA right. 10 with the auto 10 kind of thing. So that is kind of what makes it a bit more rare, right? With just that whole grading aspect. So, so there's definitely ways to do that.
Those are on the list as well. So that's on the list of kind of more of those 10-10 specifically. So now granted, like, there's going to be certain players where that 10-10 is going to be a 5-figure, 6-figure card. Maybe that's not what I'm after. I'm going after like the Greg Madduxes that we had talked about, the Randy Johnsons of the world. Those are guys that are just elite players. They're great Hall of Famers, but they're not going to be.
They're like, I think in terms of the hobby, they're more like B-list players, right?
Yeah.
Which is awesome because if you can get a B-list player, but he's also a Hall of Famer, like.
Right.
Kind of a no-brainer. That's almost like in vintage when you are buying low-grade, high eye appeal. It's literally the same concept.
And I also just think over time, kind of similar to some of these 50s, 60s Hall of Famers, I do think that 20, 30 years from now, people are going to be talking like Greg Maddux, like he's actually going to get some when he's more vintage, when he's actually more vintage, Yeah. So I like those for the value. I would say like a big chase card for me is the the Drew Brees black Topps Chrome black refractor rookie card. I think we've talked about that before. Yeah. It's numbered out of 100, so there's not many of them, obviously. And that's not one where I need to have a high grade. If it was an 8 or something or whatever, that would be totally fine. But that's kind of a bucket list card. I really want more Tom Brady stuff. He's kind of one of those where he's, the GOAT of his sport, but football cards, for whatever reason, they've definitely gained in momentum and price over the last couple of years. But if you're comparing just kind of like the prices of GOATs, now if you go back to some of his autos and his rookies and different things, there's certainly expensive cards, but Tom Brady's one that I would like to add more of. I think he's going to have a long-lasting legacy beyond his playing days, and I don't think anyone's ever going to touch his record. His records maybe, but his Super Bowls and just the whole package, I think it's at least 15 to 20 years. Mahomes might be the only guy that's got a shot at doing it in the league right now, and so I want more Tom Brady stuff. And then more vintage football and basketball. Baseball is also kind of in there as well, but I don't think I'm ever going to have a prolific vintage baseball collection, just because I'm more interested in football and basketball as sports. So if I was a huge baseball guy, it would be different, but I'm just not, and I don't want to fake it. I want to have a collection that's what I'm into. So
yeah.
I think those are kind of the main things that I'd notated.
Love it, man. Love it. Yeah. And kind of like you're saying with Brady, right? I think Brady years from now is going to be talked about how we talk about Babe Ruth, right? I mean, it's like we've never actually seen Babe Ruth play in person, but it's generally understood based on the statistics and how much he won. He's absolutely the GOAT. And I think that's how it's going to be with our grandchildren and great-grandchildren about Tom Brady. They're going to be like, what? This guy went to how many Super Bowls? He did that, so without a doubt, yeah, I mean, nothing wrong with that. Now, I think as far as a 5-year...
He's got the underdog story, too. To add to that legend, he was the 6th-round pick. He wasn't the number 1 overall pick. He's just been grinding and fighting for it the whole time.
Undersized. I love watching his combine
40-yard dash.
Yeah, his combine video. Love watching that. And then when they do the thing where he's shirtless and they're spinning him around and he's in his boxer shorts, he's got like little love handles and he's like all like really just thin. But yeah, without a doubt, man. So for me, I feel like I'm my goal is, and I've talked about this before on my show about having my bottom row cards. That's what I call them. So when I set up and I go to shows, I have my bottom row, which is all stuff that's really not for sale. And people, you might say, well, why do you bring cards to shows if you're not going to sell them? I hate when people do that. They put them in their case or not even for sale. I do for a few reasons. One, it's just good conversation starter. People see, my not for sale cards and they're the most unique cards. And usually my bottom row cards, it's usually no one else in the room is going to have that card, any card on my bottom row, because that's how unique they are. I probably have 12 cards in my case that no one else has in the room, even at a show of 200 tables. So my goal is to continue to increase the amount of bottom row cards that I have, continue to level up and continue to consolidate and get cards like that. So, these aren't cards that I haven't shown before or anything like that. But so, bottom row cards consist of like, Wayne Gretzky on card auto rookie, awesome. Dr. J on card, rookie auto, my triple on card auto, Larry Bird, Dr. J, Magic Johnson.
Yeah, that one's insane.
Yeah, man, thank you. The Derek Jeter on card auto, the foil, just all things like that I just love. The Bill Russell 61 in action on card auto. So I probably have, probably about 15 bottom row cards that are in my PC that I am not moving. And the only way I will move them is if it's to upgrade into a higher grade of that card, if it's even available, or to put it toward a bigger card. Like I talk about how I moved my 33 Gaudy Babe Ruth a few months ago, and it was something I really wasn't planning on doing, but I was able to move that, and because I moved that, I was able to pick up this 48 Bowman George Mikan, which Yeah, which the pop on this in all grades is like 250 or something.
Never see them.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So I think just really finding these low pop, rare, scarce, and unique cards. And I think that's probably, it's the same thing you're really saying, right? Is like we're trying to find our lane to where we're the only ones that have these kind of cards or this kind of collection. Like I don't want my case, if I'm setting up at a show, to look like the guys next to me. I don't want to have, I would love to, don't get me wrong, but I don't want to have like 15 Trevor Lawrences, 15 Justin Herberts, 15 Patrick Mahomes. Don't get me wrong, I would love to, because there's a lot of big money cards in those things that I could put toward what my true passion is, with the vintage. But I want to have the kind of collection that's like, oh my God, like I cannot believe, I've never seen this case is unbelievable.
Yeah.
And that feels good. That feels good when people, kind of compliment you on, it makes you feel like, you know what? Okay, I am doing it right.
Yeah, it's kind of like what you're saying with rare, scarce too. My side Stranger Things PC. People laugh at me about my Stranger Things cards, but I can get the most scarce stuff for really a fraction of what you would be like compared to scarce sports cards. So I can build out that PC and have really nice, like basically all the rare stuff or most of it. And it's getting more and more expensive, and people are asking, because it is rare, because it actually is truly rare.
Yeah.
One will pop up on eBay after, 8 months of never seeing one, and it's $10,000 is the ask, because there aren't any other ones on there. There's not any sales of them. So it's a fun chase.
And what's cool too is that your emotional connection to Stranger Things is arguably just as strong as it is to sports figures that you're fans of, if not more, because your family also has that connection. So not only is your passion for Stranger Things there, but it's also intermingled with your family's passion. Right?
And even this a weird, like multi-dimensional way of putting this, but I almost can feel like this will be a nostalgic time in my life. This show is also like a nostalgia show from my childhood. So it's almost like a bridge to like future nostalgia with my own family. It's a weird, I'm probably like multiversing it right now, but
are we in a simulation right now?
Yeah. Wait, what? I took the red pill do I take the blue pill?
Dustin, man, listen, this is awesome. I'm glad to hear this is where our collections are going, and that we're really, just kind of forward thinking like that. And I think the reason why topics like this are important is because it's not so much about what means a lot to us. It's presenting this question and having the listeners and the watchers ask themselves that. And that's the reason for really throwing this out there is like, you guys watching at home or listening in the car, what is your collection going to look like in 5 years? What direction are you heading? On a big macro level, zoom out for a bit and let's look at the direction you're going. Are you on the right roadmap, or do you need to jump roadmaps? Are you just trying to keep up with the Joneses and buying what's hot and trying to flip and play hot potato? And if that's the case, that's awesome. If you're truly happy doing that, great. But I know for me, who I do feel like I'm just, I'm all about collecting. I really don't enjoy the transaction much anymore. So these kind of questions are really cool to kind of ask and put out there.
Absolutely. Yeah, couldn't agree more. And it's something too, it evolves over time. It's, I think we put pressure on ourselves, and especially too, when you're spending your hard earned money, there is pressure of like, hey, I need to kind of know what I'm doing. The problem though with this is that day one walking into this or getting back into this, you're not going to have all those answers day one. It's going to be a progression. It's going to take time.
Yeah, well said, man. Well, Dustin, thank you very much, man, for us knocking out episode 4 of Dinged Corner's 5-year card plan. Yeah, man, that's it. Any closing words?
No, thanks for having me. I keep saying thanks for having me, but this is a joint thing. It's going on my channel as well, so I don't know why I keep saying it like that. But no, yeah, this has been fun. I want to keep it going, and let's see where it goes.
Yeah, and thanks for having me, Dustin. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me too. All right.
All right, guys.